This is the Turf Zone Podcast, your central information and news hub, bringing together professionals from turf associations across multiple states to share things to help you in your business. Brought to you in partnership with our friends at the Virginia Turfgrass Council. This episode is sponsored in part by Sod, world-class service on demand. Visit us online at www.buysod.com. Now, let's get in the zone.
Welcome to the Turf Zone. In this episode of Virginia Turfgrass, we're talking to Kurt Fellenstein of Trinity Turf. Kurt, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Julie. I'm well. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Thank you for finding a few minutes to chat with me. So I know it's a busy time of year, and we'll just jump right in and get to the good stuff. First, tell me about Trinity Turf and what the company does and what you do.
Sure. So Trinity Turf, we're a wholesale distributor. I would call us a regional distributor, full service, full line of anything for turf. So grass seed, fertilizer, pesticides, erosion control. Pretty much if it goes on the grass, we sell it. We just don't sell sod, which sometimes people confuse us for a sod company. But if you look at trinityturf.com, you go to Texas to a sod company, but trinityturf.net is us in Virginia. We're based in Virginia, and we're the regional distributor. As far as my role goes, I'm the founder of the company. We started in 2004. I took on a few partners pretty much immediately after starting, and so they were active for a while. I actually have one partner that is still active, and along with my wife, she works day to day doing all of our accounting for us. So we've been doing this since 2004 and been kind of loving it ever since.
Excellent. So what was your path to get to that point? What did you do before founding the company?
Well, I began my career with Wetzel Seed Company, and that was a well-known name a number of years ago. Wetzel Seed has been bought and sold several times, and really the name has kind of gone by the wayside. But, and I worked under Bob Wetzel when I worked there and enjoyed my time there, but there was another opportunity that I left for. And that company that I left for was a family-owned company, and they were trying to do a southern expansion. They were based out of New England. And I told about 6 months into that, I told my wife, I said, it's really great working for this company. They're a family-owned company, and I like that. But if something ever happened, I said, I just don't think I could go work for somebody else. I said, I just think I would do that on my own. And lo and behold, about 6 months later, they came to me and they said, well, things just aren't working out with our expansion. We're going to have to retract back up into New England. But we found some other company to take you over. And I was like, thanks, but no thanks. I'll just do this myself. And, I was really, really fortunate that I had built a loyal customer base, and I felt like they were buying from me more so than the company. And I felt like the majority of them would follow me no matter what I did. And thankfully, that was the case. So I had a really loyal group of customers that said, hey, well, if you're going to do this on your own, we'll back you. And so that was kind of how things got started. Just getting started back in 2004, I just had the corner of a warehouse for this other company, or I kept a pallet or 2 pallets worth of stuff in that little corner. And then over the years, it's grown. I mean, our main facility is in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia. We're in Weir's Cave. We have about 20,000 square feet of warehouse there. And then also in Richmond, Virginia, we opened up a location several years ago, and we have about 24,000 square feet of warehouse there, and currently have about 22 employees. So things have grown quite a bit over the last 18 or so years.
Yeah. So it sounds like starting out and being more in an account management or sales role obviously worked really well for you. So when you started Trinity Turf, did you carry that over, or did you have to immediately kind of shift into more of an administrative role and a management role? What's the balance of that for you now?
Well, when I first started, we were very lean as a company.
Of course.
So I did it all. Mainly, I was still a salesperson when we got started, and kind of stayed in that role for many years. I would say probably after about our 10th year in business, things started to really change a lot, and our infrastructure was built or was starting to mature at that point. And it was probably around that time where I kind of had to make a decision because I couldn't still do it all. We'd grown to a point where that wasn't possible. And so probably the thing I loved the most was being out on the road in a sales position, but I couldn't do that and still run the business. So we started to hire more people in a support role. We had hired some salespeople at that point. And so I just had to transition more into, I would call my position now as more like a general manager. I mean, technically, I guess I'm the CEO of the company, but I'm not big on labels. I just feel like whatever needs to get done, that's what I do. So there's still times today where I'll hop in a delivery truck and I'll go make deliveries because we're shorthanded and our customers need their products. So I'll do that. I do most of the purchasing, although I have hired some help on the purchasing side of things. So I've got somebody that does our day-to-day purchasing, and then I just look at the bigger picture. So it's kind of transformed itself over the years into that role. And so I used to spend 5 days a week behind the wheel going from customer to customer. And now I basically spend 5 days a week sitting behind a computer every day.
It's a different view for sure.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So, well, I'm interested because I have a lot of interest right now in the magazines that I work for, and they're all Turfgrass or green industry related. And we're all talking about something you just touched on with labor being shorthanded, supply chain and prices changing. And I'm always interested from your perspective in the industry. How does that look from your side? How are your customers handling that? And how are you communicating with them about your area of that world?
Well, my initial answer to your question would be, I don't think there's enough time to answer this truthfully or cover it adequately. So, yeah, things have definitely changed. For us, there really isn't anything that we haven't been able to get. So I know there are some industries that are having trouble just getting products. We've really not had an issue getting products. Obviously, prices have changed quite a bit. There's a lot of instability in the fertilizer market. Transportation costs are crazy right now. Mm-hmm. We're just having to look so much further ahead right now.
Right.
So it used to be, in a lot of cases, we would even have just-in-time inventory. I mean, if you ordered something today and I didn't have it, I could get it tomorrow. Right. And so within 2 or 3 days, you would have whatever that was that you ordered. It's not really like that these days. And so we're carrying heavier inventory levels, because I used to look 6 to 8 weeks out, let's say. Now I'm looking 6 to 8 months out. And in some cases, we're actually even we're trying to look a year ahead on certain products. But just trying to communicate that, we do that through our salespeople mainly. We want our salespeople to have that relationship with the customer and then be able to sit down with them and say, listen, this is what's happening in the market. And for the good of both of us, we need to start looking a lot further ahead than what we used to. That's been our biggest thing, is just having to look further ahead.
Very good. I know I'm interested in that full answer, but you have a business to run, and I'm interested in the off-the-record answer to that question. All right. So I know you're wearing a lot of hats, and like you said, when you're the owner and manager of the company, you have to do all of the things, and if it needs to be done, it just has to get done. And of course, the best managers are the ones who step up and do that, and that's fantastic. So since you get to do all of those parts, what's your favorite? What's the best part of your job?
The best part is a little bit of a hard question to answer. A lot of that may depend on the day.
That's fair. That is fair.
What's happening? We're doing this interview on a Thursday, but it almost feels like a Monday to me based on how the morning is gone. But I will say this, interacting with customers is probably the thing that I miss the most. So I'm not out there on a regular basis. And some of the customers that we have today, we've had them all 18 years.
Yeah.
And I do feel bad that I can't be out there interacting with them on a regular basis. So that's what pains me the most. To tell you what I would enjoy doing the most, a lot of days that would be I'm going to hop behind the wheel of a truck and I'm going to go make deliveries. I'm going to turn the phone off because it's, nice and quiet and I need to focus on the road. And really by doing that, it does give me the opportunity to interact with some of the customers as well. So when I make those deliveries, I get a chance to, at least have a 5 or 10 minute chat with whoever's there receiving the delivery. I like to do physical activity as well. And so that encompasses a little bit of that as we're, unloading product off the truck. So I would say that's probably my favorite thing.
Excellent. So obviously this interview is a member highlight for Virginia Turfgrass Council, and Tom Tracy recommended that I reach out to you. So tell me about being part of industry organizations, and does that, obviously it's a great way to build your business and make some more connections, but does that membership and being involved help you connect with your customers also? Does that contribute to that part of your business?
Oh, I would say sure. And I'm a big proponent of value. And so I'm going to spend our time and our money on things that I perceive to be a good value. And the Turfgrass Council has been a tremendous asset to the industry over many, many years with everything that they do. Tom does an excellent job as the director. So yeah, that's at the different shows that they've put on or pesticide recertifications, that all of those type of things are things that we perceive to be high value. And it gives us a chance to interact with customers. As much as possible, we try to make it to all of those events for that reason. And as far as our support, I think probably even at the beginning, I think we tried to support the Turfgrass Council, but certainly the last 15 years plus, we've been supporters of the Turfgrass Council.
Fantastic. This is sometimes stumps. You get a pass. What is a lesson you've learned the hard way in your career?
The thing that jumps to my mind is just learning to be humble. My personality type is pretty high strung, trudge forward. Don't tell me I can't do something because I will do it. And I bought product out of spite one time, and I spent about $10,000 buying a whole pallet of this one particular product because this guy told me that I couldn't buy it. I said, I will buy it. Now I had to buy a whole pallet, and it probably took me 5 years to get rid of that product.
Oh, no.
So yeah, just sometimes just being humble, you can be humbled by some of the decisions that you make. But I also live my life by life is a series of decisions, and we all get to make decisions, and every decision that we make comes with a consequence. And so some of those consequences are good and some of those consequences are bad. And a lot of the decisions that I've made over the years, the consequences have been great. That was one instance that was probably a bad decision. And I kind of learned the hard way, like maybe just sit back a little bit and think about it a little bit more before you make a kind of a knee-jerk reaction. That was one that I learned the hard way.
Yeah, I think there's some version of that for all of us, whether it's product that sits for 5 years or other ways of being humbled. That's a good one. Do you have, as you came up in the industry and working for other companies and then starting your own, do you have any mentors who kind of helped lead the path for you and get you really focused on your direction in your career?
Yes, I may kind of answer this two ways. So I threw out a name when we first got started, Bob Wetzel. Bob was an icon in the industry and just a tremendously nice guy. Learned a lot about how to treat customers from him. I learned a lot about the right way to do business. He was an honest man. And so I would say he was definitely a mentor early on. He's probably one of the biggest ones in this industry. I've had some business mentors that are in other industries, and I would encourage when people invest, they always say diversify. And I kind of use that same concept here. I said, get mentors from other industries, business mentors. And so I've been very fortunate, and I've been able to learn from very successful business people and use them as mentors. But Bob was the biggest one in this industry. The other way I would answer that question is working for other companies. I learned how not to do business, which I think might even be a more important thing. I saw things that they did, and I thought, why are you doing it that way? It doesn't go with your mission, and it doesn't help the customer. So why are you doing it that way? So sometimes looking at it from that perspective, you can learn a lot.
Man, I tell my kids that all the time. I wanted to unplug my headphones so they could listen in. That's great. Okay, let's shift out of work mode and in all of your, I'm sure as a business owner, you have all of this free time.
Right.
What do you do outside of work?
What do I do? Well, I guess first and foremost, I have a family. So my wife and I have been married 23 years now, and we have 4 kids. My oldest just graduated high school. She's 18. And then I've got a 16, a 14, and 11-year-old. So they have a lot of activities that they're involved in. And as much as possible, I try to be involved in those activities as well. You would think in the industry that we're in, I would say, yeah, I love to golf. And I used to. But honestly, the last 4 or 5 years with family commitments and business commitments, golf has kind of gone by the wayside. So some of my oldest customers say, yeah, come on by, let's play some golf. And I'm just like, oh man, I haven't even picked up a club in like 3 years. But other interests, I do love the water. And so a lot of times we find ourselves on the eastern side of Virginia doing some type of whether it's kayaking, fishing, boating of some sorts. Believe it or not, I do love to mow grass. And so I find myself not only mowing my own grass, but I'll try to help out, whether it's maybe there's a school that's struggling and they need some help with either some advice or they just need some extra labor, or if a family member or something like that. So I find myself on a mower, and it's kind of like I mentioned earlier about getting behind the wheel of a truck.
Right.
You can put your headphones in and just kind of the rest of the world goes away for an hour, and you can just focus on what's at hand.
That's excellent. I also enjoy mowing the lawn. I keep trying. I've been trying for years to get my husband to trade out like laundry duty for lawn duty. Only every once in a while.
Every once in a while.
No, I really should be mowing the lawn. I'm like, okay, I know what's going on here. Okay, I've made down my list of questions. So I've got one to close it out with, and we're great on time. What would your advice be for people entering the turfgrass industry right now?
Well, good question. Number one, I mean, it's a great time to enter the industry. I mean, there is tremendous opportunities right now. Be willing to start at the bottom. I would say too often people think, well, they look at their parents and they see what their parents have and they think, well, I should have that. Well, what they don't realize is their parents worked for 35 or 40 years to get what they have, So be willing to start at the bottom. Obviously, if you don't have to, that's great, but be willing to do that. It's a great industry. It's almost cliche, but anybody that likes outdoors, the turf industry, you're outdoors and you're working on a regular basis, and you get to enjoy the outdoors, the creation. It's a great industry to be in. Don't forget, there's another side of it. There's the sales side. We always look for good, talented people to join our business, and we have better hours than some of the you go to an athletic facility, you go to a golf course, you're working weekends and holidays. Well, guess what? We're off weekends and holidays. But yeah, that would be my advice is, and if somebody's unsure of what they're doing, take a look at this industry. I mean, it's been around for a long time. It's thriving right now. It's gone through some periods in the past where it hasn't thrived, but it's always been there. And I'll tell you, hopefully you have time for this, but I'll tell you this. I was with one of my customers one time, and I told him, I said, at the end of the day, we're just talking about growing grass, and it's not having an effect on the world. And he stopped me right there. And he said, you need to understand this. He said, especially where he's located, he said, we're 2 hours, let's say, from DC. He said, we have veterans that come out to play golf on a regular basis. We have other people who have experienced trauma, let's say, in their life, and they use this as a getaway. He said, we provide an excellent service and we have an effect on people from all walks of life. And I thought that was so profound, and it changed my perspective.
Right.
After that, I thought, what we do does really matter for people, and it's a great industry to be involved in.
I agree. I'm somewhat new to the industry and still I'm on that publishing side. So I'm not out working in the way that actual turfgrass managers are, but I have found that it is a welcoming and friendly and collaborative, really fantastic industry. It really surprised me to start talking. Yeah.
Sure. And and different the interactions the different facilities have with each other, their owners may feel like they're in competition with each other, but the turfgrass managers, as a general rule, are all community, and they share, they'll, hey, what works good for you? And they'll share that information with each other. So it's really, the people that are actually growing the grass, it's a real community. From the sales side, we're just glad that we get to be a part of it. They need the products, and so we're providing a valuable service to them. But it really is an honor for us to actually be involved in that community that they've developed among themselves.
For sure. All right, Kurt, I have covered my questions just right on time. Is there anything that you wanted to share that I did not open the door for you to share?
Oh, well, I do want to share this. If somebody wants to start out and start a business, let's say, just be aware that connections that you make, you may never know how those connections will come back in your life to help you. And I'm just going to say, over the years of our business, we have had people come into our lives, and they may have only been in our life for 6 months. They fulfilled a need that we had at that time. And we may have had half a dozen that I've never seen since then. We had one trucking company that came in and they were hauling products up to New York, and they needed something to come back to Virginia. Well, we happened to be buying some stuff from these people up in New England. Well, they did that for about 6 months, which was so helpful to us. And then I've had no contact with them since. But it's, those people come in and out of your life, and you just don't realize what impact or what kind of a service they may provide. And so my advice is just treat everybody well. I guess this is what my statement would be. I personally have high levels of expectations as to how I want to be treated as a customer. And I try to pass that along to all of my customers because I want them to have the best level of service. But on the same side, I also use that with my suppliers and with all the support people that we have. So we're a company that we pay our bills. I don't use my suppliers as a bank, and we've done that. I didn't take a salary for the first 6 months of the business. We wanted to make sure that our suppliers were going to be paid. But, just treat everyone how you want to be treated. It's a biblical concept, I guess. But because you just never know. And those people will come in and out of your life. And if you treat people well, the right people will come to you at the right time.
I couldn't have closed it better. That's fantastic. I'm going to do my little closing tag, and then I'll turn the recording off. Kurt, thank you again for your support of VTC and for talking to me this morning.
You're quite welcome.
Don't miss an episode of Virginia Turfgrass. Subscribe at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us at theturfzone.com.
You've been listening to The Turf Zone. Thank you to our sponsors, including Buy Sod, world-class service on demand. Visit us online at www.buysod.com. For more episodes of The Turf Zone, visit theturfzone.com and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast app.